Welcome to the West Sports Show. In today's show, he's in. Hayden Young is back for the Fremantle Dockers. The AFL hands down its penalty to Izak Rankine. And two big guns at the Eagles. Are they on the move? We are brought to you by TabTouch. Got the touch? Download the TabTouch app today. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. I am joined, as always, on a Thursday by Mitchell Woodcock. G'day, Mitch. How are you?
Good. I'm off my deathbed quarters. I've resurrected.
Yes.
Final round of the year.
Bit of it going round, mate. No, look, a massive day again in footy.
Oh,
we'll get
wow.
to the Izak Rankine punishment, Snoop Dogg story in a moment. But let's open with teams because they've just dropped. And I'll start with the expected big name at Freo. Hayden Young has been named in the starting lineup. They've also brought in Oscar McDonald and Brandon Walker, which is interesting. The Western Bulldogs bring in Nick Caulfield, 191-centimetre defender, Liam Jones, an intercept defender, and Arthur Jones, the smiling live wire forward, into the extended mix for that game on Sunday that both teams must win or draw if they are to keep their finals hopes alive.
Exactly. So Hayden Young, we expected to be named.
So he starts, and we expect Nat Fyfe to be the sub again. And I would expect anything can happen in this game. Someone can be injured, and Nat might have to be injected early, but you'd expect Hayden gets 2-3 quarters, and then in comes Nat.
So my two questions for you, quarters here. And you watched Freo. I was on a plane, unfortunately, when Freo played, so I watched the replay. But I want to know live. I watched the Bulldogs live, I can tell you that. So Darcy, Norton, Croft, all three big guys. Do they bring in McDonald to help out with those three straight in? And the other one, Riley West, is, if not, I think he should be in the All-Australian squad, if not close to the All-Australian team, as a small forward. Kicked 3 at the weekend. Is that Brandon Walker? Is he coming in for that? Like, I reckon there could be 3 changes here for Fremantle.
So the name you didn't mention was the fourth head of the 4-headed monster. That's Tim English. Now, Tim English likes to push forward as well and catch his opponents off guard. So how much time do you give Luke Jackson? How much time do you give Sean Darcy with him? All these are questions that Justin Longmuir must answer. But, yeah, it's compelling. The in for Brandon Walker, for Riley West, who's been in sensational form. And Oscar McDonald for cover for that other forward. So debut last week, Croft looked pretty handy.
He was very athletic.
Gone all right with the father-sons, the Dogs.
Oh, they've done very well. I actually think Heath Chapman might be in a bit of trouble with this one, quarters. I don't really see a logical matchup for Heath in that forward line if Brandon Walker is the better one for Riley West, because they're just so tall up forward under that roof too. It's gonna work. Obviously, there's been a bit of disruption. Family circumstances for Luke Jackson. We hope Jackson and his immediate, not immediate family, but his people around him are okay and doing well. But he's been in Melbourne. So from a football sense, it is a disrupted preparation for them.
It's not ideal. Different. It's not ideal, but it is round 24. So you'd hope that the body of work is there and it doesn't have too much of an impact. Now, we'll get onto that game in a little while. Let's move on to West Coast. So
2 massive changes.
2 massive changes. Tell us all about it.
So Tyrell Dewar's come back in for the first time since he was subbed out against Melbourne in round 21. And that we have a 10th debutant for the year for West Coast, Luca Grego. He's the last draftee from last year to make his debut. So he will play against Sydney on Saturday night. Matt Owens has come out. He's got an injured calf again. And Ryan Marrick's going to miss with illness. One of 3 players until this week who hasn't missed a game. The other 2 being Ruben Jinby and Liam Baker. So Luca Grego, fantastic story. Halfback midfielder. Just spoke to his under-18 coach, Trent Dennis-Lane. You can read that in Saturday's paper. But just, I think we should expect some really exciting things from this young man. I'm not sure he's going to be a world beater, but I think he's going to be a 200-game player just by that solid citizen, really level head. The Eagles like to joke that he looks a bit like Shannon Hearn. And
does a little bit.
And I can tell you right now that
he's got the tat sleeve starting, so Shannon didn't have that.
But anyway, while we're on the subject, I think we just need a little bit of positivity this week. It's been a bit gloomy with the weather. Glen Quartermain, did you just not call this on Tuesday?
I did, actually. I did call Luca Grego. And look, I'm really pleased. I'll take that rap, by the way. Really pleased with this in. It makes so much sense. You're on the bottom of the ladder. Yes, you're searching for a win. But why wouldn't you give Luca Grego a taste of AFL ahead of his second preseason?
Well, I can tell you right
Makes
now.
perfect sense to me.
I'll give you a little sneak peek of what I spoke about Trent Dennis-Lane. He said to me there was no more professional player in the Coates higher league last year.
He was captain of the Jets, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yep. And he just said, so it's sort of, the never say die attitude of Luca Grego is sort of proven with the fact that he's making his debut in the last round. You want to know something interesting, Quarters? There's only one player on West Coast list at the moment who hasn't played AFL football. It's Cohen Livingston.
Wow, okay.
And he's out of contract, and I'm not sure he's going to be there next year at this stage. So they haven't used them all this year. There's a few that haven't played, obviously, Elliot Yeo, Dom Sheed, Callum Jamison. But just interestingly that when they do to make a list decision at the end of the year, there's only one player they haven't actually seen at the AFL level, but he did play in the Indigenous All-Stars game as the lead ruck against Fremantle this year. So I like the way they've explored their list under Andrew McQualter. He's done a fantastic job in his first year.
The ins for Sydney, unfortunately for West Coast, Brodie Grundy, arguably the best ruckman in the competition at the moment and very much vying for All-Australian.
100%.
Alongside a few others, including Max Gawn, Riley Bice and Corey Warner. Cleary, Dettori and Laddam's out. Laddam's I'm just going to give a rap to. He's, of course, you're going to make way for Brodie Grundy, but he was fantastic last week, so he's pretty stiff to be omitted.
Yeah, I like the way he moves. I will say Brodie Grundy coming in is a big in, obviously, for Sydney. I really liked Matt Flynn at the weekend. Watching him live, you had to watch it live to see what he would do. And there were times where he was taking Tim English as deep forward as he could and just making himself dangerous. He wasn't always getting hold of the football, but he was pushing Tim English away from the contest and just making him
he was doing what Tim English does to other players.
Yeah, and it was fantastic. And so Brodie Grundy's a bit of a different beast. He's more of a clearance specialist, ground ball guy, can take a mark, but, he's a running sort of player. So it's going to be interesting the way the West Coast Eagles try and match up on him. But yeah, I just wanted to give a rap to Matt Flynn. I thought he was excellent at the weekend, nullifying Tim English.
You mentioned contracts, so you were at the Andrew McQualter press conference. Now, what did he have to say about Oscar Allen?
Well, I want to actually play something what Oscar Allen said this morning on Mix 94.5.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, clearly I haven't signed a contract with the club. Negotiations have kind of broken down to a certain extent. So, I'm in the same boat as everyone else. People think I'm lying to them when I say I'm not sure what's going on. Yeah, we're genuinely still trying to figure things out.
So, Quarters, you've been on this for months now, that the Brisbane offer's there and that it's looking like he's going to end up at the Lions as a restricted free agent. That's a very frank admission from a player, and let alone a co-captain ahead of the final game, is it not?
Yeah, I would expect sooner rather than later us to know have a lot more clarity about Oscar Allen, but I'll stick to my guns. He's going to Brisbane. The offer is far greater than what West Coast were prepared to offer him. He'll go to Brisbane and he'll play with them next year and fill a very important role for them because they do need another key forward. So
I'm fascinated by this situation, and I would love to. Between you and me, I'm hoping to go to the draft this year. Say between you and me, we're on a podcast to cover the draft.
And everyone else.
And I want to talk to Matt Clark about this because I want to find out how this has played out as well. Like Andrew McQualter would be obviously privy to a lot of these things, but Matt Clark's the list boss, and I would love to know a little bit more about these.
Well, quite simply,
things.
the love hasn't been there contractually for him, or longevity in terms of tenure. So there's a much better deal being offered by Brisbane. I expect him to go there, and they will get Band 1 compensation for him. So don't listen to any of the speculation that the offer won't quite be there. It will be. It'll be enough for them to get Band 1 compensation. Now, there's also some talk around Liam Ryan.
Yeah, so this is fascinating. So Liam Ryan, he had interest from Hawthorn last year. I kind of forgot about this till this week.
End of 2023 it was.
And it re-entered my head, and I thought, okay. So he signed that contract extension for this year and next year. Last year, we reported that at the time. And then now there's this interest coming from Port Adelaide. There's a bit of interest in having there was a bit of interest having Port Adelaide get Nazai Wanganeen-Miller, Liam Ryan and Willie Rioli because they're all quite close. So that was the initial interest. And then obviously St Kilda have kept Nazai, which is the biggest story of the week. And now there's a bit of interest in Liam Ryan heading to St Kilda to be with Brad Hill and Nazai, again, who he's very close with. So my understanding is there's a 3-year deal on the table from St Kilda with a trigger for a 4th. West Coast still only have a deal for him at the end of next year, as far as I'm aware. I'm not sure if there's a contract on the table or not. I can tell you Essendon have a couple of years on the table as well. I know Carlton had some interest previously. I'm not sure if that's still around. I also know Gold Coast had a bit of feelers out at one stage too. So I don't think they're really in that market though. So I'm curious to see where this ends up. But Andrew McQualter was very firm in his stance.
Liam's a contracted player. He's an important player for us. So, I think if you read every article about people player movement this time of the year, there's 500 players changing clubs, which we know doesn't end up happening like that. There's always good players like Liam's. They attract interest from other clubs, which we understand. So, Liam will be with us next year.
Ball's in their court. He's contracted for another year. You know what I'd do? I'd say to St Kilda, righto, you can have Liam Ryan, but and you can have our first rounder that we'll get from Hawthorn. Who knows where that's going to end up. And we'll just take Rowan Marshall if you're getting Tom DeConing.
I'd be tempted to go, we'll take Liam Ryan. We'll give you Liam Ryan at our first rounder, but we'll take pick 8 off you, or first pick. So interestingly, if St Kilda want to get this deal done, they don't have a second round pick. Do you know why they don't have a second round pick? Because they traded it last year to get another pick in to get Hugh Boxall ahead of West Coast, who ended up getting Tom Gross. But just an interesting tidbit there too, because that was what they did. So that's why they don't have a second round pick this year that's at another club. I believe it's actually at Hawthorn from memory. So yeah, just interesting. I just watched this space on a couple of Eagles moves. Exit meetings next week. A lot of things will become clear.
Now, of course, late in the day, the news dropped. Izak Rankine, 4 weeks. Dragged back from the initial 5-week penalty that the AFL was proposing for his homophobic slur that he uttered in the game against Collingwood. Medical submissions were submitted by Adelaide. Look, I'll break it down. I don't agree with the 4 weeks. It should be 5. The 5 weeks, Riak Andrew at Sydney just recently was given 5 weeks for an identical incident. So I don't agree that finals carry more weight than a home and away in terms of suspension. It's a game is a game. Now, Andrew Dillon was at pains to say we did not take that into account. He did say there was competing medical evidence that was taken into account. So obviously Adelaide's concerned about the mental health around Izak Rankine, as they should be. But the two things for me, I think it's a cop-out that has come from 5 down to 4. And let's be honest, it took way too bloody long. It's Thursday. This should have been this punishment should have been handed out Sunday, Monday.
So my two things are definitely with you on how long it's taken. It's just too long. The other thing this is an AFL failure. It's the same AFL failure they've actually got with the MRO at the moment. There's no actual guidelines, proper guidelines to how to do these things. So the MRO's problem is the guidelines are so strict it's either 0 or 4 in some cases. At the moment with these situations, there's no matrix.
So we need a set penalty with the option to go bigger if it's an egregious. Now,
or multiple. So did you say it once or did you say it multiple times? There's a report at this stage that he said it multiple times.
And let's not mince words. So the F word that he dropped. Now, there are people going around saying, look, I've spoken to my friends in the community that it doesn't offend them. Yes, it does. It's a very offensive term. You should never be thinking it, let alone utter it. Let's hear what Andrew Dillon had to say about the 4-week penalty.
There's a range when we look at it, and we've had a number of instances in the last couple of years, and there's been in the AFL 3, 4 and 5 match suspensions. We look at the specific instances, and in this one, there were submissions made, including compelling medical submissions that were taken into account when arriving at the sanction.
Can you talk to us? Can you talk about those medical submissions at all?
No.
Why is there not, though, a matrix for this? So, okay, you've said this is a homophobic slur. You've said it X amount of times to this player, and it's your first offence. Therefore, it is 4 weeks. And then second is 8. Why is there not a matrix? Why are we just trusting an investigation that we know nothing about, and then when we ask questions as a media, we get no more information because we don't stand for this? Because
it's very much ad hoc, as it has been at the AFL for a while. I think Greg Swan's going to have a really, really busy summer, and I think I hope and I believe that by the start of next season, we'll have a better matrix for the MRO and there'll be a matrix for this sort of incident as well. Now, what do you make of Snoop Dogg? So Snoop Dogg, who has uttered the F word himself in lyrics. There's a bit of pushback from Adelaide. You're going to suspend our player, yet the performer on grand final day has used the same phrase in the past. So Andrew Dillon was asked about this today, and he said that was then. He is a rehabilitated individual. He's a philanthropist. He used the word philanthropist. But,
you called him a grandpa as well.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting – I'll just paint a picture for you. just imagine for a moment that Adelaide does in fact. So what the 4 weeks means is if Adelaide go through at the long, so they finish top, they win their qualifying final, straight to a prelim, they get to the grand final, will be their third game. But he can, and plus we've got this week's suspension as well, so that makes it 4. But if they go through the long way and lose their first final, he's going to be eligible to play on grand final day. Just imagine if that happens. Snoop Dogg's performing, he comes out and wins a Norm Smith. Do you reckon there'd be a bit of heat on that?
Well, and this is the other thing I mentioned today to one of our colleagues' quarters, is that the AFL have actually left themselves open to this now too. So if he actually gets picked grand final week, they go the long way. That's all grand final week's going to be about. Every time an Adelaide player gets spoken to, every time a coach, every expert, selection, all the way through, right to... Wouldn't be if it was 2 weeks. But do you know what I mean? Like, this is what it's going to be. It's going to be farcical for a week. The second thing I think about is what's a worse punishment for Izak Rankine? And I want the listeners to think about this because I'm curious as to what this is. And look, he's made a mistake and I hope he learns from it. But the reality is he's being punished for making this mistake. He is educated. AFL players are educated. Jack Graham did it no less than 2 months ago. He shouldn't be doing this.
The narrative is out there. Jack Graham has only just returned from a 4-week suspension for self-reporting.
Yes.
So sorry, Isaac, but how dumb do you have to be?
So my question is, what's worse as a punishment? If Adelaide lose a prelim by less than a kick and he's wondering, do people and his teammates think if he was out there, maybe they're playing in a grand final, or watching his team win a premiership on grand final day? Because they're 2 realities for Izak right now. And I think, and that's a fairly big punishment, but it's probably an appropriate punishment.
So if they go straight through to the grand final, my theory on Adelaide is every team has players that I think if you take them out of the team, I don't think they can win the premiership.
Yep. To
be quite honest, mate, I'm a Hawthorn man. I don't think the Hawks can win a flag without Will Day and Josh Weddle.
And they're both
probably not. Well, Day won't play. Weddle will be most unlikely. Maybe if Hawthorn goes really deep, he might get back.
Yep.
I think there's 3 players at Adelaide they just cannot not have out of that side. One is Jordan Dawson.
Yep, 100%.
One is Riley Thilthorpe.
Yep.
And the other is Izak Rankine. Because
100%.
Not only he can go through the midfield and light them up, but it's that X factor. We've seen him do it time and time. He can change the course of the game. He can change momentum. So I think this seriously dents their premiership chances unless they somehow, and you don't want to go through the long way. I mean, it's
that's tiresome.
It's just a really peculiar set of circumstances for me. I think it's taken too long. I think the messaging is horrible, and I think they needed to make a really stern statement early. And I think they've mucked this one up.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, speaking of Izak Rankine's playing ability, we saw it only a fortnight ago against West Coast where he had 3 disposals to half-time, had 20 in a goal, and won in the game. So, they don't win that game without Izak Rankine. So, no, 100% agree with you, quarters on all fronts. But, the AFL have made so many mistakes in this. There needs to be a fix next year.
There does indeed. Let's pick some winners, Mitch. MCG tonight, 5:30 p.m. Essendon, $3.55. Carlton, $1.30. I'm sure Essendon would be hoping it's their last game of the season, but of course it's
I actually really feel sorry for the Bombers, This is a rough... I know!
It's in my DNA, mate. I can't.
Take the scarf off.
No, I can't do it, mate.
They got 2 more games, the poor buggers.
In Dylan Shield for his last game, or last season. Will he play against Gold Coast? Don't know. There's a lot of talk about that. Merritt and out... Hobbs and El Hawley, and for Carlton in comes son of a gun Lucas Campriali, Will White, Lockie Fogarty out, and Cooper Lord with concussion. He has had a great finish to the season, Cooper Lord.
Yeah, loved him actually as a tagger.
Look,
Carlton
win this game. They were very good last week. Once again, we've seen them fly home, haven't we?
Yeah, Carlton, yeah.
Where's it been all year?
Carlton's about, now finding a little bit of X factor that they can take into next year, because if they don't play finals, Michael Voss is stuffed, to be completely honest with you. There's no other way to put it.
MCG Friday night, 5:10 p.m. Collingwood, $1.27. Melbourne, $3.70. Can you mount a case for Melbourne, or do you think the Pies get it done? Terrific game against Adelaide. Brutal game against Adelaide. It will suck a bit out of them. Jeremy Howe, he is listed as a test KO, but I can't see him playing. That was a pretty big hit against Hawthorn. Bo McCreary available off a hamstring injury. I think he's one of their most important players because of his speed and his ability, tackling ability, etc., etc. I think the Pies bounce back this week. I think they can finish top 4. And here's one. I think they can beat Adelaide week 1 in the finals.
Yeah, I do too. So interestingly,
it just depends on how let's get to the Hawthorn tip in a minute. But I think Collingwood win this to consolidate their spot in the 4 for the moment.
So Rowan Steele, West Perth wingman, picked up the mid-season draft. He's actually come into the side quarters for his 3rd game. So, and Melbourne have gone in unchanged. The Demons are a funny team. If any team can match up well against Collingwood, it's actually Melbourne in the midfield area, and Collingwood haven't been running well.
Weren't good last week, mate. Smashed by Hawthorn. 3 junk time goals late. Should have really lost by 50 plus. And Hawthorn never got out of second gear. They are just going, Melbourne. Just.
Yeah, I know, but it's an interesting one. Look, I'm going to tip the Pies, obviously, but I'm curious to see where this one ends up.
Marvel Stadium Saturday, 11:20am. North Melbourne, $6. Limping to the finish line. They'll be thankful it's over. Adelaide, $1.13. We've mentioned Rankine out for 4 weeks. McElhenney and Pedler still a week away of hamstring injuries, and Rochelle a knee 2 to 3 weeks. So you'd expect McElhenney and Pedler to be available for the first final.
Yep.
But maybe Rochelle will be line ball. So Rochelle's sort of a bit of no one's like for like with Rankine, but he's sort of. So
he's your best option.
North Melbourne, of course, coming off that performance last week where Harry Sheasel equalled the record for disposals with 54. Lord. Was also involved in a career-high 15 scoring change. Pretty good game, too, from Paul Curtis. He's only been goalless once in 8 games at Marvel Stadium. Loves the venue. Luke Davies-Uniacke had a tidy 40 possessions, too. I think the Crows get this done. Even there's not really a lot to lose, is there? Technically, they can lose top spot, but I think they get this one done. Interesting to see how they react after the week. It's really been all about one player, hasn't it?
Yeah, so if you're the LA Crows, you just want to get down to football. But, it's such a weird week for them. I don't even really feel like I know what their week's been like. And you wonder what Collingwood game, that took a lot out of both teams. That was a brutal game to watch. I was watching it from my hotel room in Melbourne, and I just couldn't believe it. North Melbourne, geez, Harry Sheasel, that was amazing. I got to Marvel Stadium and I kind of didn't really pay much attention to that game. I was excited. Geelong and Sydney were starting and, I was getting ready for the book. And someone goes, Sheasel's doing well. And looked down and he had 40 disposals at nearly 3/4 time. And I just, what?
It was hard to get enthused about that game until you realised, geez, Tom Mitchell's record's under threat here, and eventually he equalled it. So.
And at Marvel Stadium, the champion data guys are in the same box as you. So there's 8 champion data people just like losing their minds over this, and it was fascinating, and everyone turned it on, and we watched the end of it, and we're all barracking for him to get there because it was just you just wanted to feel
sort
good.
Of performance that champion data people live for.
In saying that though, Adelaide are going to win.
Now, Mitch, I've jumped the gun.
That's okay. I like jumping guns.
Adelaide Oval Friday night. Apologies to anyone who thought I was going to leave it out, but I haven't. Port Adelaide $4, Gold Coast Suns $1.25. That's a 6:10 p.m. Western Standard Time start. Very important game for the Suns. Got to win one of their last 2 to play finals for the first time. I expect them to, but it won't be this game. I think Port gets this done at home in Ken Hinkley's farewell game and Travis Boak's farewell game. Alir is a test off an ankle, and of course Ollie Wines out with suspension. I think this is going to be a really emotional game, and I think it's going to be enough to get over the line for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, I'm tipping the Suns. There's an interesting something. There's 2 things that came to me today. Someone said to me, imagine if Port Adelaide beat the Gold Coast Suns, Fremantle lose, and then it comes down to that Wednesday game between Gold Coast and Essendon.
There's
all
every
chance. All of a sudden, it changes a bit of everything, doesn't it? The other one was, and I'll credit our interim editor today, Jackson Barrett. I put a little stat out there. I said, we were looking at, Boak's played 380-odd games. Kane Corns is second on the all-time games list with 300 exactly. And who's played the third most? And he actually came up with it first go. Justin Westhoff. Never thought of that. No, I haven't thought of for a long time.
Pretty handy player.
But yeah, no, I'm going the Suns. I think they win. They're a professional outfit now.
MCG Saturday, 2:15 p.m. Richmond, $15. Geelong, $1.
Geelong.
Shannon Neeld out with suspension. Jezza Cameron was goalless last week. Shannon.
He won't be goalless this week.
He won't be goalless this week. A bit like North Melbourne, I think Richmond have shown a bit this year. I like the youth in that squad, but, gee, they'll be looking forward to the finish line, don't you reckon?
I reckon Josh could just about get our last 4 weeks on Richmond and just copy and paste those audio. We're not saying that they've done a great job, but they're limping to the line because they just have.
Okay, we're almost through Saturday, and then we get to sexy Sunday, Mitch. Optus Stadium,
hello.
Saturday night, 5:30 p.m.
I don't know if I want to be
The
on here
Eagles,
Sunday.
$4.80. Sydney Swans, $1.18. We've mentioned the ins and outs already. Are the Eagles any chance here to make to win 2 games this season?
You know what? I'm tipping Sydney, but the more I think about it this week, the more it comes to me that West Coast have a bit more to play for. And Sydney, don't forget they played in the grand final last year. It's not a big preseason for Sydney. It's been a long year for Sydney. It's a big travel for them across to here. Look, I expect Sydney to win. I think they've got too much class across the board. But there's just something about me, the longer this week goes, the more I just have this gut feeling that West Coast might be able to do something. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I can tell you that right now.
Here's the $1 million question. Who goes to Izak Rankine? Is it simply Ruben Jinby?
Well, that's what Guy McKenna told me yesterday for an article. Yeah, he reckons that it would be the best option because
No matter where he plays, so just follow him
He
around?
said he can follow him around, and I kind of agree with it, to be honest. Brady Hoff's probably going to get Papley. They don't really need too many tall defenders because, they don't have Amadi and Logan McDonald. Jack Buller I spoke to this week.
He's been playing well.
Yeah, 8 goals, 8 games. Really like what he's done. Came back from a lower back injury, had a disc problem and had surgery. So liking the way he's going about it. I'm tipping the Swans, but yeah, I don't know. Just a weird feeling at the moment. West Coast aren't just going to go away without a little fight. And Andrew McCoulter's a fighter. There's a bit of a steely look in his eyes today at the press conference.
Yeah, he's a fighter, that's for sure. Look, I feel a bit for Jobe Shanahan. In any normal circumstance, you'd be the third tall,
You'd be the
developing
third
your
banana,
craft,
wouldn't
but
you?
he's the number one. Since debuting in round 16, he leads the club for inside 50 targets with 40. Disposals inside 50, 28, and marks inside 50, 15. Didn't quite get it right last week, but presented. He's going to be a player of the future. Unfortunately, he's coming up every week against a gun defender, and he'll probably get Tom McCartan this week.
You know what I can't wait for? Him to have a full pre-season and then just come back looking like Riley Thilthorpe-esque. Maybe not as big because I don't think he's got that frame, but imagine him with another 5 kilo on.
Beautiful kick. He's a natural forward. Don't you think he seems just like a natural forward, Jobe Shanahan? I do.
I do, but you know what? It wouldn't ever surprise me if he became an intercept defender as well. Like he's the most versatile key position player I've seen for a long time in that ability. He's a bit of an Aaron Norton, actually. I think that's probably the better description of him. He's a bit taller than Aaron Norton, but that ability to read the ball in the flight, he takes it at the highest point every time. Got to kick 3 at the weekend and he kicked straight.
Okay, let's move on to Sunday. Let's start at 10:20 a.m. at NG Stadium. Giants $1.17, St Kilda $5. It's the sort of game St Kilda likes to just muck everything up.
It's the sort of game Ross Lyon likes to muck everything up.
So I'm just going to read a few names for you. If the Giants, who I did pick in the preseason to win the premiership, I think they're a fair way off that.
They're not out of it.
But here's the players that they've got coming back in the next sort of 2-3 weeks. Jack Buckley, Brent Daniels. Now, Brent Daniels, I think, is one of the most important players in that squad.
100%.
Jesse Hogan's still a TBC on his foot. Josh Kelly, he's going to be back for the first week of finals. So they have got players coming back. Too much to lose. I'm picking the Giants in this one.
Yeah, I'm picking the Giants as well, but don't expect it to go all their way. St Kilda are running hot at the moment, selling $7 memberships.
Sorta hot.
And celebrating Nazar
Hot?
Wanganeen.
Hot or-
Won their last 4. They're boring footballers. They've kept Wanganeen Miller.
Yeah, I don't think they're hot. I think they're sort of warmish.
Yeah, well, Ross will come out tomorrow and do a presser and talk about something strange, and I don't know.
Okay, Sunday, 1:15 p.m, the first of 2 massive games that will shape the 8. Western Bulldogs $1.33, Fremantle Dockers $3.30. The Bulldogs have won 7 games by at least 70 points at Marvel Stadium this season. No other team has ever won 7 games by 70-plus points at a venue in a season before. Fremantle has lost its last 2 games at Marvel Stadium, including a 67-point loss against the Bulldogs in round 15 last season. Coming off a shocking loss to Brisbane, the Bulldogs coming off a easy win over West Coast. I'm going for a massive upset. I'm going for a Fremantle victory in this game.
I want to go for Freo, and
I think
my footy parochialism, WA love, and just because I want to have a WA team in the finals, but I watched the Bulldogs last week. I don't reckon they got out of third gear against West Coast. I thought West Coast were excellent on the contest. I thought their pressure was really good. I just thought the Bulldogs handled it so maturely, even more mature than Adelaide handled it. They let it come, and eventually they knew they were going to break through West Coast's first phase of defence. And when they did, they just scored. It was fascinating. Like, if you watch the game, it wasn't a disaster. If you take the scoreboard away and you watch the game, it wasn't a disaster until finally the Bulldogs got the ball out and it just went bang and they scored. It was fascinating to watch. And if they do that to the Fremantle Dockers, it's going to be really hard. If it was over here, I'd be backing Freo, but I don't know. I worry about that tall forward line.
I look at
Montempelli.
Yes, he's a great.
Wow,
he is a great player, and they do move the ball well under the lid, and they have that forward line. But if you look at the two teams and their strengths, okay, look at their forward lines. So yes, there's a lot to worry about the Dogs, but Fremantle at least have coverage. I don't know if the Dogs do. If Fremantle get on a roll, I think they're going to struggle in that back half. Their record is not convincing against top 9 teams, top 8 teams, and I think they can get them in there, particularly with ground ball gets. I think Freo, if they can get enough inside 50, can do some real damage in this game and play finals.
Can I ask a question? Mm-hmm. Does Libba go to Sarong? And what do they do if they do? Because Freo haven't been able to solve that problem.
I don't think they'll have a run with it. Teams are less prone to do that. Most teams are less prone to do that.
But they're so problematic with this Fremantle. They don't know.
Well, you can get Sarong, so they'll probably look at that. It's a plan B, but I don't think they start that way. I think they back their strengths. Why wouldn't you back your strengths?
Oh, no, 100%. I agree with you.
If you're winning by 70 points every second week at Marvel.
I just find it fascinating that Fremantle have never been able to solve the problem when Sarong gets tagged. Instead of beating the tag, he just goes to another player to try and free him up, and it never works for them. There's two things that are fascinating for that. And then the second one is what do they do with Nat Fyfe? Because there's an argument, and there's a fair argument out there, there's a discourse out there that they should actually just play him for a full game.
Mm.
And I don't half disagree with it. But at the same time, I worry about it because it was only a few weeks ago he injured himself doing a warm-up. But then Hayden Young's coming back and he's done hamstrings and groin.
Well, if someone's injured early, he's in anyway.
It's really problematic for Freo at the moment, and I just trust the Bulldogs as a side a little bit more right at this second, more fitness-wise than anything. I feel like Freo have...
So you're picking the Dogs, I'm picking Freo.
Yeah.
Okay, Sunday night, 5:20 p.m, Brisbane $1.57, Hawthorn $2.40.
Settle down, Quarters. Settle down.
Some very interesting ins. Very interesting ins. So Brisbane's still without Lachie Neale. He'll be back for the first week of finals. Hawthorn has brought back in Cam McKenzie, Sam Butler and Ned Reeves. So Brisbane's brought in Oscar McInerney. Just there's a bit of a fascinating... Bit of chess going here. Chess going on here. Now, I look, there's a very impressive performance by Brisbane here against Fremantle. I think their best footy this year has been the best in the competition, but it's been sporadic and they have been gettable at the Gabba. I'm going to pick the Hawks to cause a back-to-back upset on Sunday afternoon and shake it up again. So Collingwood shores up its spot in the top 4 and Hawthorn, which is only 0.5% behind them, I think they can do enough to get into that top 4.
I think Hawthorn are right in the mix, but I'm going to go with Brisbane just because it is at the Gabba. And just quietly, there's a lot of talk about father-sons Quarters. Here's something for you, right? Mm-hmm. This pricked my ears up at the weekend. So Frankston versus Brisbane's VFL team. Best on ground for Brisbane, Daniel Annabelle, 25 disposals, 8 clearances, 7 tackles. And he's part of their academy and they'll get him next year. Mm. They're getting, like this Brisbane team, there's talk about Sam Draper going to Adelaide, staying at Essendon, going to Brisbane, Oscar Allen possibly going to Brisbane, or, more than likely. Zach Bailey's a free agent at the end of next year. Why wouldn't you go to Brisbane? They're not going anywhere for the next decade. Ashcrofts are still less than 22, younger than 22. This is fascinating for me.
So we will sit down prior to the draft and trade period and we'll go through all of this and we'll try and explain to people the changes in the points calculations for the father-son and NGAs because the AFL has tweaked it. You will have to pay more of a premium price to get you in, but it's quite complicated. So we will attempt to map it out for people, but they'll need a good glass of water.
But imagine that. Your best player, you could finish top 4, could win the premiership for a second year, and you'll end up with a guy who I spoke to Kevin Sheehan at the weekend quarters about the number one pick,
Shifter.
who is a contender.
Shifter Sheehan.
Yeah, who's a contender for the number one pick, and you end up with him. And there's an argument out there that Levi Ashcroft would have been the number one pick last year. It fascinates me, this whole thing. It's
Why
Brisbane,
West Coast should bid, and then you're either going to get a gun anyway, or you make them pay the premium price.
Well,
That's what the system is there for.
They will pay the premium price because the only reason the academies work is if players know they're going there.
Yeah.
If you're a Queenslander and you want to go play football, you go to the academy because you know you're going to Brisbane and you're staying in Queensland.
Mitch, time for the Thirsty Camel mailbag. You know it's my favourite time of the week. This week's special Vodka O 1 litre Camel Club member price is $54.99 a bottle. Join up in store or online today. Every week we're giving away a $50 digital voucher thanks to Thirsty Camel. Get your questions in for next week to theWestSport@wanews.com.au. Leave your mobile number at the bottom of your email as we'll send you the voucher if you're a weekly winner.
Have you got a lime tree?
A lime tree.
You're a
I've
lemon
got a
tree?
very fertile lemon tree at the
Do ya?
moment. Oh, yeah.
Because I've got some, like I get some vodka roll. I've got the,
I
what do you
can't
call
keep
it?
up with the
So-
production.
I've got the Soda Stream.
Yes, I've got one of those.
Vodka lime and sodas. I'm on.
Very
I'm
nice.
going to Thirsty Camel.
Now, anyone who's sent in mail in recent weeks that hasn't been read out, I do have a couple up my sleeve, so be patient.
All right.
It's just you got to keep them a bit shorter. You are going to love this next one.
Oh, here we go.
This is top of the list already. This one from Dan from West Leaderville. Hi, Quarters. Great show again. I enjoyed your discussion about sporting curses. This was Tuesday's podcast.
I did listen.
And it made me think of a great, slightly different example of one sort that an Irish mate told me about several years ago, which I thought you might enjoy. Bear with me. This is a cracking story. I've linked. The story goes that County Mayo Gaelic football team, returning from their 1951 All-Ireland win, passed a funeral procession without paying proper respects, enraging a local priest. The priest is said to have cursed the team in response, stating that Mayo would not win another All-Ireland until all members of the 1951 team had died. The crazy thing is that County Mayo have played in 11 All-Ireland finals in the 70-plus years since that day, but they've lost every single one. The whole story has just added weight to the idea of the curse. Whether you believe in that sort of thing or not, it hangs over the supporters and players. On the flip side, I think now only one of that team remains alive, and I imagine that the first time Mayo reaches a final after that last member has passed on, the team will be absolutely buzzing with the knowledge that the apparent supernatural barrier to win has been removed. Love that one. No need to add any Mayo onto that, Mitch.
Hey, I tell you what, if they made a final and you're that bloke, you're not leaving your house because someone's coming for you.
That reminds me of my favourite. I'll quickly tell a dad joke, right?
Oh, no.
Playing golf with this elderly chap one day, and a funeral procession went past. And he stopped, put his clubs down, stopped, put his hand on his heart and closed his eyes. And I said, geez, that's really decent of you, mate. And he goes, oh, she was a good woman. I was married to her for 40 years.
Oh.
Anyway, boom, boom. So this one from... sorry, I did tell you it was a dad joke. This one from Maney from North Perth, a regular contributor. I was listening to your show on Tuesday and discussion about curses. Do you think the Fremantle men's team needs a new club song, or at least sing it the way the women's team does? I fear the song is holding them back from success as the players are embarrassed to sing it after. We know they're not.
No.
Andrew, I love you, Maney. Good on you, mate. But, mate, stop this dockery thing. It's got nothing to... The song's fine. Have you heard the original?
Yeah.
Kenny, who wrote the Eagles theme, who wrote Kenny the Koala, he wrote that song. He was given Volga the Boatman, which is like a Russian sea shanty, and he had to turn that into a club song. If you have a listen to the original, he's done a pretty good job. Kenny Walther, I think is.
It's a very Docker thing, you know. Until they win a flag, it's going to be all about these small things.
Just relax about that stuff, and that's a great song. They sing it with gusto when they have a win, and I think they'll be singing it with gusto on Sunday.
Agreed.
Hello, chaps. Much has been said and written about the tactics adopted by Justin Longmuir during the Dockers' loss to Brisbane. I'll leave that to the experts, like your good selves. However, the one thing I was disappointed with and wanted to comment on, which I think you blokes glossed over on Tuesday, was his decision to leave Nat Fyfe on the bench until the game was as good as over. Fyfe should have come on at halftime or early in the third quarter when the game was in the balance. We'll never know if he would have made a difference to the result. Probably not. But what is the point of having him as a potential game changer when he's not used until it's late? Hindsight, Not really. About 50,000 club fans could see it, and we're screaming for Fife as the game slipped away. That's Steve from Sorrento. That's a great email.
It is.
We did talk about it on Tuesday. I tend to agree. I think halfway through the third quarter, they fought their way back into the game in the second quarter, but then just cocked it up in their forward line. Couldn't put one through, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that they will. I think they should have put him on a lot earlier. I think he could have made a difference.
They lost that game when they were 0-8. I think there was only one rush behind.
Yeah,
at the
they
time.
were. Yeah.
But
first
look,
quarter with the uncontested marks is when they lost.
But look, in hindsight, they're only 4 goals down at 3-quarter time, let's say, and he comes on, has 8 disposals in the final quarter, fresh as a daisy, plays the entire term just about and wins them the game. Then we're all talking about the genius move of the patience. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. In hindsight, it's a wonderful thing to say, but it's tough. What did you make of the Fife goodbye at the end? I found it really touching and emotional, and I found it weird too at the same time because it's like
season's not over.
Yeah, it's such a strange. I understand why they did it. I'm not
Most
disrespecting
likely
it.
was his last appearance at home. Most likely.
Yeah, and I'm not disrespecting it for that reason. Just a very strange juxtaposition, isn't it?
There was a weird feeling in the rooms after the game too, I felt. But, there were people who were critical of that, saying it's just too much distraction.
No, I loved it.
No, he's
But it
had a
just
long
felt
and storied
strange.
career, 2 Brownlow medals. The game's over. Let them show the respect to the bloke that's played 246 games for the purple.
Oh, I agree with you.
I
thought
had
it was
no
great.
issue with it. I thought it was fine.
But I just thought it just feels weird too. Do you know what I mean? It's like you've lost that big game.
I think
There
we're
was
all
that
getting a bit
disappointment, and then it was Fife saying goodbye. I don't know. It just
I
felt
think
weird.
people are just getting a little bit grumpy at the tail
It's
end
the
of season.
weather.
Yeah. Well,
Sick of being inside.
some great mail this week. Thank you to all of you, but I just can't go past Dan from West Leaderville.
Yeah,
for that
great.
canny
No.
Mayo story, and it allowed me to tell a dad joke. So,
All right, you bring the limes. I'll
Yep.
bring the soda stream. He's got the vodka row with the voucher. We're on.
okay, won't be today because I'm on a 5 and 2 today. So
Oh, okay. Sorry.
no
Well,
alcohol.
there's no calories in soda.
No, but there is in alcohol.
Okay, sorry.
You have been listening to the West Sports Show. We have been brought to you by Tab Touch. Got the touch? Download the Tab Touch app today. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. Remember, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube Music. Leave us a rating and a review, and don't forget to follow this podcast so you don't miss an episode. Mitch, it's been a pleasure yet again.
Woo.
The finals are almost upon us.
How exciting. Waffle finals, AFLW's back. AFL finals are so close. We're gonna know the makeup, or just about the makeup of the top 8 by the end of this weekend.
Well, we will know the makeup of the. Well, maybe next Wednesday. It might come down to next Wednesday. We'll see.
I think Gold Coast might move. But good luck to you and your Hawks. I know you're in it. I know you're nervous. I know the Quartermain household on Sunday night will be an interesting place.
Always nervous.
Is Lisa
mate.
leaving?
Optimistic.
Is Lisa leaving the
I think
house
she-
for a few hours?
I think she might.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah. I think she's going to see Dead Flowers down at the Port Hotel in Fremantle. Had a ticket for me, and I said, "Look, but the Hawks, are on." So anyway, I'll talk to you next week.